Do you ever have one of those weeks where you have so much work, so many assignments, you don't even know where to start, and so you don't? Maybe you missed class because you were sick. Maybe you had an excuse absence, or maybe you just could not drag yourself out of bed. No judgment. But now you're buried under a pile of late assignments on top of your regular assignments that, how dare they, don't stop coming at you. If this sounds familiar, stick around because today I'm sharing my best strategies to help you recover from late assignments without totally losing your mind. So let's dive in. Hi, I'm Katie Azevedo, a private study skills and executive function coach who teaches students and professionals strategies to learn and work smarter. I'm the host of the Learn and Work Smarter podcast, which I think you will love. And part of learning and working smarter is knowing how to dig yourself out of a hole when you're in one. As I said at the top of this video, there are a variety of reasons you could be drowning in late assignments. You could have missed class because you were sick. You could have forgotten about them. You could have, mismanaged your time and literally couldn't get to them. You could have chosen not to do them. All right? Any number of reasons may have brought you to this video today. Now, an occasional late assignment is not going to kill you or your grades, but it does become a problem when we ignore missed assignments and let them accumulate until we are so overwhelmed that we freeze and do nothing. It's when we do nothing that the situation gets worse. The assignments become later, whatever. The new assignments keep piling on, and before we know it, we are in a bad situation. You're here for some strategies to get yourself out of this situation, which is awesome, and today we have 6. I have designed the following 6 strategies to not only help you recover from late assignments, but also to help prevent you from falling even more behind with your work that continues to keep coming at you. Because as we know that, it does that. All right, tip number 1, keep going to class. When we are overwhelmed by late work, it is so tempting to skip class, I know. And it's even more tempting to skip class if our late assignments are late because we missed class, because maybe we're embarrassed and we don't want to, face the teacher or reality for that matter. But the worst thing for your grade and for your stress is to miss more class. Remember, the whole goal here is to make progress on late assignments while not accumulating more late assignments. And the best way to ensure that we're not going to miss more assignments is by going to class. Even if you're tired, even if you are stressed, even if you really, really don't want to, Katie, get to class. Here's the thing, which I know that you already know. When we miss information taught during class, we miss material that we need to do our current and future assignments. I have students in this situation who, like clockwork, continue to skip class even though they're already behind. And their excuse is that they tell me that they intend to use that skipped class time to work on their late assignments. But I can honestly say that in nearly 20 years of teaching, I have only seen a handful of students ever use their skipped class time to productively work on assignments, and even fewer students who had this strategy work out for them. You know what I'm talking about when you're like, you know what, I just need like 90 minutes. I just need like a chunk of time to work on my work. I'm not gonna go to class and I'm just gonna like lock it in and get all the work done. Does that ever really happen? No, it doesn't. Okay, go to class. Stop the bleeding at its source. That's the strategy. All right, tip number 2, make the list. Now that you've agreed not to skip any more classes, it is time to make the list. The only way to complete all of the tasks is to know what all of those tasks are. Think about this for a sec. If we don't know what we're supposed to do, then how the heck are we supposed to do it? Right? Like, you know that it's not enough to keep your homework assignments in your head or in your learning management system, like Google Classroom, Canvas, whatever. That does not work. And that especially does not work when you're overwhelmed. Having only a general sense of what kind of needs to get done is a guarantee for stress. When my private clients are overwhelmed by late assignments, we go through the following steps together to create the list. I'm going to walk you through those steps in a second so that you can do it for yourself. Okay, but a real quick heads up. Some people honestly find this process stressful and need to take breaks because it does get intense, but then you get back into it. If this happens to you, take a 5-minute break, no more than that, and come back to the process. If it is too overwhelming to see a list of all your late work in one spot, I'll just staring you in the face, then when you're done making your master list, then you can fold the paper over to expose only a few assignments at a time. You have to do what you have to do. This is what some of my students with ADHD have to do, because the minute they see the whole list, they enter into like cognitive paralysis, okay? But you know you better than anyone else. So here is how we make the list. Number 1, get a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. I know you can do this online, but I highly recommend on a piece of paper. Number 2, go into your learning management system and click on each class one at a time. You open every posting between now and the date of your first late assignment. For some students, that might be weeks in the past. Do it anyway. The only exception is that if you have late assignments from a semester or a quarter that is now closed and there's no way for you to make it up. Write every late and current assignment from your learning management system on the left side of your paper, and in the right column, you write the due date. Obviously, many of these due dates are going to be in the past. Step 3, once you've written down all the late and current assignments from your learning management system, it's time to go into your email. Why? Because some teachers send emails with information about classwork to students who miss class. So you need to check your emails from teachers to see if they contain any details about assignments, and you would add them to your list. And step 4, finally, email your teachers to ensure that you didn't miss anything. You don't have to email every teacher, but if there's a teacher who doesn't post assignments to the portal consistently, or maybe they're disorganized, I would email them. Could you talk to your teachers in person? Absolutely. And if you'd really prefer to do that, then you can. If you do, just make sure that you take a really good note on what they say. I'd bring your list to your meeting in case they maybe excuse you from some assignments. Sometimes they do that. Or add any that you missed. You don't want to rely on your memory here, and you did all of the work creating the list, so you might as well bring it anyway. All right, so that's one way to do it, but there is a reason I suggest emailing your teachers. Teachers are busy, and it is always a good strategy to get things in writing in case you or your teacher forgets. One of you is gonna, right? So here's an email template that you can screenshot and use to email your teachers if you'd find that helpful. Obviously, just change the parts that you need to change. Also, in the description box, there is a link to the blog post that goes with this video. I'll put this exact email template in the blog post in case it might be easier to copy and paste from that. Now, you might be wondering what to do with this list. Good question. It's not just to evoke panic. No, we're gonna talk about some strategies later on in this video about how to actually get these things done. So sit tight, okay? Strategy number 3, temporarily put other activities on hold. At some point, we need to face the reality that completing late work while also completing current work takes a lot of time. And if you're a busy student, you might find this truth so annoying, but it is the truth. If you are overwhelmed and you honestly do intend to complete your late assignments, then you need to make time to do the work. Now, the reason I just said if you honestly intend to complete your late assignments, like I emphasized that, is because some students may actually choose not to complete late work. Obviously, you're also choosing to take the low grades that come as a consequence, okay, but that's your choice. But my point is that if you truly have no intention of completing your work for whatever reason, and you are lacking the motivation to dig yourself out of this hole, then I don't think that this video or any of the strategies here are really for you. No judgment. That is your choice. I mean, I hope that's not your choice, but it might be. Okay, but we waste so much time, yours and everyone else's, when we keep telling this story that, oh, I'm gonna do it, but like deep down inside, you actually have no plan to do it, okay? But if you are here watching this video because you're like, no, I gotta handle this, like this needs to happen, then you're obviously in the right spot, and we're gonna need to find real time to work on these assignments. And that's what this tip is about here. Maybe you need to temporarily cut back on work hours, say no to babysitting, get dismissed early from practice or rehearsal, cut back on social events. I know, right? Oh my gosh, you might not be able to go to that party. Oh gosh, this is all temporary. But it's what we have to do when we are missing work. Now, one tip here is that when temporarily saying no to other commitments, I want you to look at a specific window of time if saying no to things is overwhelming, okay? Let's say that you have 2 weeks until the quarter closes so that your hard deadline for submitting things is like in 2 weeks. Then look at your calendar and scale back on the commitments in just the next 2 weeks, okay? So that's what I mean by temporary. Okay, before I get to tip 4, I want to kindly ask that you like this video if you're finding it helpful, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and leave a comment below just to say hi or to ask a question. Nothing makes me happier. All right, tip number 4, get or give deadlines. Nothing gets done without deadlines. Deadlines give us urgency, which is a primary factor of motivation. I know the phrasing of this tip is a little odd. Let me explain. You need to either get deadlines from your teachers or you need to give deadlines to yourself on your own. So let's start with getting deadlines. So every teacher has their own late policy that you have to follow, late work policy that you have to follow. And it's your job to know what these policies are. This information is usually given at the start of class. You can find it in your syllabus. You can just ask your teacher. But you cannot assume that all teachers will accept late work, especially if you're in college. Also, your teacher might have different deadlines depending on whether your work is late due to an excused absence, an unexcused absence, or simply because you chose not to do it on time. If you missed 2 weeks of class because you were having a surgery, you're going to be given an extension on your work, okay? But if you just straight up didn't turn in something because you didn't want to, you might not be allowed to get credit on anything. And that's just sort of what it is. When you're making the list in step 2 and meeting with teachers about assignments, that's the time to clarify their deadline expectations for submitting late work, okay? This information is going to help you prioritize the work that you complete first. Because now, we do have to rank the assignments in terms of how late they are, how much credit you're going to get for each one of them, and when their new deadline is. All right? In tip 6, we're going to talk about prioritizing and some different approaches to completing the work, but let's finish with this tip here. Because sometimes teachers don't give you a specific deadline, so that's something that you have to handle by yourself. So this is where the give yourself a deadline part of the tip comes in. I have seen this happen with students who are super behind with assignments. Sometimes the teacher just says, just turn it in as soon as possible, right? Usually this is high school. They're just turn it in before the quarter closes. If that's your situation, you need to make your own deadlines. Otherwise, it's just not gonna get done, right? So get out a calendar. You can use my free weekly planner linked below, or just a Google Calendar or whatever you want. But it needs to be a calendar, okay? So you have your list and your calendar. And you're trying to put every assignment from the list into a specific spot on your calendar. If this is too overwhelming, you can do it, just 1 week at a time. If you don't have enough space in your day, literally by the time you have school and job and work and practice and all this stuff, and you don't have enough time in your day, then you have to go back and watch tip number 3 again, all right? Tip number 5, use the 2-to-1 ratio. I teach this strategy inside SchoolHabits University. I created this concept after teaching for 2 decades, and over this time, I realized that the biggest problem my students had with catching up on late work was dealing with their current assignments at the same time. So I created the 2-to-1 ratio as a way to gradually tackle the backlog while staying on time with current assignments. So here is how it works. Complete 2 current assignments, complete 1 late assignment. Complete 2 current assignments, complete 1 late assignment. Essentially, for every 2 current assignments you work on, you complete and submit something overdue. It's simple and effective. And because this is a ratio, you can scale it up. You could complete 4 current assignments and then 2 late ones, right? You can play with it. Last tip, tip 6, prioritize work connected to upcoming tests. Now, if you have 1 or 2 missing assignments, you don't need to prioritize them, just get them done, right? But if you have 3 or more, I suggest prioritizing so that you know which ones to tackle first. There's a few ways to look at this, and it depends on your work preferences and your specific situation. But you do have some options for how to prioritize your late assignments, and let's look at a few. There's time-based prioritization. This is when you complete the assignments in the order that they were originally due, starting with the oldest. Deadline-based prioritization. You complete late assignments according to their new deadlines. Difficulty-based A. Okay, there's 2 difficulty-based ones. This is the first one. Complete the smaller, simpler assignments first to get some quick wins and build momentum. And then you move on to the more complex tasks. The benefit of this is also that smaller assignments help us understand the material which we need to complete the larger assignments. And then there's difficulty-based prioritization B. This is when we complete the larger assignments worth the most points first, and then we complete the smaller tasks. You might find that once you complete the larger assignments, you may not actually need to do some of the smaller ones if your grade reaches something that you're okay with. Regardless of which approach you take, I always suggest prioritizing assignments related to upcoming tests and quizzes. Okay, that was the name of this tip. Right? So for example, let's say that you have a statistics test in 2 days. You have a missing Chinese project, a missing anatomy reading with questions, and a missing statistics thing. Okay, which late assignment do you do first? the statistics thing. Why? Because doing the worksheet or whatever it is will help you prepare for your upcoming statistics test. All right, remember that homework and classwork are designed to help prepare you for your assessments. So if you don't do the stats worksheet, you're not going to be ready for your stats test. And then you're going to have one more thing on your to-do list, which is to retake your test. Now let's talk real fast about how to prevent late assignments in the future. That's really important because regularly falling behind in work is usually a sign of a larger issue. If you're missing classes because of anxiety, depression, or other health issues, please seek the counsel of a physician. I am not a physician. If you are missing assignments because they're hard and you don't know how to do them, you're either in the wrong class placement or maybe you simply need more help understanding the material. It's time to start meeting with your teacher, asking a friend for help, maybe getting a tutor. If you're missing assignments because you don't care about them and are unmotivated to do them, then that's a sign of emotional dysregulation, right? Someone with a healthy level of emotional regulation is able to have feelings, I don't want to do this, right? And still take action and do the thing because they don't let the feelings override their behavior. Okay, that is emotional regulation. Now, another reason for low motivation is actually a skill deficit. Maybe you don't know how to study. You're super frustrated that studying doesn't work, right? Because you've tried it in the past and you didn't see the payoff. There was like no ROI. So you're like, what is the point? So maybe it's not about the assignments at all, but about how to do school in general. That's exactly what I teach inside SchoolHabits University. Finally, consider the reality that the only way assignments get done is if we do them. This is a fact of life. You can procrastinate and avoid all you want, but if you don't want that bad grade that comes with the late work, and if you don't want the stress and anxiety that comes from knowing you're behind, you've got to put your feelings aside and take action anyway. As always, I say this with love and kindness. And as always, I appreciate you and I thank you for watching.